Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me here, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame to his game because he's always the same.
That's me.
Grump, how are you this fine Saturday evening?
The Islanders should be disbanded as a franchise.
Well, okay.
That's
Okay.
it. Mathieu Darche, you're done. He sucks. He blows. He's the worst general manager in the NHL.
Okay,
There's no doubt in my mind.
Let's
No doubt in my mind. The worst general manager in the NHL.
Let's pause. Okay. For those of you who are new to the show, new to the channel, new to the podcast, new to the live stream, we welcome you here with open arms. This is an all Islanders podcast. First off, that goes live every single Saturday between 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you are new to the channel, you're new to the live stream, you're new to the podcast, it is imperative that you subscribe on YouTube. That is how you get the bing notification bell anytime that we go live. And also what that does is if we do an impromptu or a live podcast that's out of the normal schedule, like we're going to have a few weekday podcasts coming up here soon. So you have to be subscribed on YouTube to make sure bing, you get the notification. And also if you like the content, the best way to let us know is by hitting the thumbs up button, right? If you like the content, that lets myself, Grumpy Old Man, and SunX behind the scenes know that you like the content that we're producing. And also, that also helps juice the algo. It gets this podcast out to the Islanders masses, all the Islander fans that are out there. It helps get it to them. And it just lets myself and Grumpy know that you like what we produce. One more piece of housekeeping before we jump into the show. We do have an all sports podcast that takes place every single Sunday between 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You could find that in the link in the description below or as a featured page here on our YouTube channel where it says, check out our other podcast. And there it is, TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. So, Grump, coming in a little hot immediately. But
Mathieu Darche is the cuck to all NHL general managers. Let me tell you something. Ken Holland didn't want the job. We know why now. Mark Bergevin didn't want the job. We know why now. Who's the only one who'll take a job? Somebody who is desperate, who interviewed for how many jobs over the years, couldn't get them, begged for this job. And you know what they said to him? Okay, here you go, Mathieu Darche. This is the way it's going to be. You're going to have to keep Fredo. You're going to have to keep, who's the other guy? What's the other guy's name? Pellegrini. You're going to have to re-sign Kyle Palmieri. You're going to have to re-sign Adam Boqvist. He has no power on this team.
Well, Grumpy, I want to ask this. Nick Canetta says, I thought the Darche's press conference went very well. He said the right things. Hopefully he implements them. I'm very excited about the future.
What did he say? You know what he said? Absolutely nothing. He said nothing. He said Patrick Roy is going to stay as coach. They moved out two guys, Albeline and McLean, are out, so they're going to hire two new coaches, and that's going to be Patrick Waugh's hire. Other than that, what'd he say? We like a fast team. I couldn't imagine us selling a first-round draft pick. It'd have to be a Kings, whatever. It'd have to blow my socks off.
Knock my socks off.
That's GM speak. That's GM 101. A monkey, a freaking bald-headed monkey could have said that. Matter of fact, the bald-headed monkey did say it. Here's what we did. We got rid of an old bald dope and brought in a young bald dope. That's all we've done. Absolutely nothing. He's in control of hockey operations, right? He's in control of hockey operations. I heard from someone that Palmieri's contract was not signed until Darche called him, and Darche got that contract signed.
That is verified, yes.
Okay. Verified. Well, guess what? If that's his decision, F-. I didn't mind Boquist. He cost nothing. I didn't mind that. Why sign Palmieri back?
Yep, and JP's right here. Yes, Elliot Freeman did come out and say that. Lou drafted this Kyle Palmieri contract. It was 2 years, $4.75 million. The first year was a complete no trade clause. The second year was a 16-team modified no trade clause for 34-year-old winger Kyle Palmieri. And that's correct. Darche then agreed to it and rubber stamped it, but this was a deal that was put in place that Kyle did not originally sign the contract during the time period that Lou actually offered that deal before he was canned and terminated. And then, yes, when Darche took over, he extended the same exact contract, or said, yes, I'll honor that contract. However, that went down, and he agreed to the terms.
He has no value. Oh, you can, and he got a no trade clause to boot. You gave a 35-year-old, soon to be 35-year-old, a no trade clause.
He's 34. Come on.
He'll be 35 in season. He's in his 35 age season is what he's going to be in. And you gave him a no trade clause. Oh, well, you could trade him for a second round pick. Who's going to want a piece of shit like that when he's 36 years old? Nobody.
I do want to mention this. I'm probably not as harsh on Darche's first few moves. I'm not a fan of the Palmieri signing now, because there is a lot to discuss. There's a lot to unpack with it. I don't like the signing. I'm not as probably animated as Grumpy is on this. I'm giving him a little bit of leeway to see.
You're not, because you keep on cutting me off. The New York Islanders are the New York Jets of the NHL. They're the Cleveland Barons. They're the Kansas City Scouts. They're the Atlanta Flames. Failed franchises. That's what the Islanders are. This is a clown show from top to bottom, an absolute clown show. Like I said, Lamoriello knows he's getting fired. The owners know he's getting fired, and they rubber stamp him extending his useless Fredo son and Pellegrini. Why are you extending those guys? Who has control? You know what? Ken Holland, when he says, oh, yeah, Ken, by the way, you got to keep freaking Fredo for another 2 or 3 years, and you got to keep Pellegrini. You always said, see you later. I'm going to go to a team that has a chance to win. I'm going to go to Los Angeles. You know what? Mark Bergevin said, you know what? This loser squad, no. I'm going to stay out in LA too, as an assistant to the general manager, rather than take on this massive undertaking, which he's not even in control of. What type of self-respecting GM comes in and says, well, you're in charge of hockey ops, but guess what? You have no control over who's in the minor leagues. You have no control who's a GM of the minor leagues. You have no control of anything. And
no control over the assistant GMs on your teams, and you have no control over the head coach.
Okay, let me finish. And you have no control over the head coach. You have no control over the players. You have no control over anything. Oh, we're going to blow our socks off. What do you think? I guess what? The odds that James Higgins gets picked number one went up to about 75% as far as I'm concerned. Because if ownership tells him, you're going to draft this kid, he's going to, yes, master. Just feed me my little biscuit. That's what they're going to do. This guy's useless. He only got the job because he's a yes man. The Islanders suck. Their future is over. Over. Done and finished. Who they wheel out? How much? When's the Anders Lee contract extension coming? Well, Lou said he could get that too. Oh, sure, Lou. There was something reported today that in Montreal says Lou is kind of staying on where he's going to be an advisor to Mathieu Darche. How's that going to go? How do you think that would go?
Do you remember when I told you that was a possibility?
Okay, but Rosner came out and said that he's absolutely gone. He has nothing to do with the team as of July 1st. I don't know, but you know what it means? What does it say to you, though? What does it say? The Islanders are in total disarray. Total disarray. Everything that they've done so far in this offseason has gotten an F grade from me. Every single bit. For you to bring him out, and I said it, if Mathieu Darche is coming in, you need an experienced veteran president of hockey ops, because this guy don't got the balls to stand up to anybody. You see him up there with this shiny scalp? You see him up there? Oh, yeah, well, he's speaking that francophone. I can't even do it, right? It's like, what a failure. No. I gave him a week, and he's blown it. Blown it.
Well, I did want to mention, right? I want to let you roam with it a little bit, Grumpy, but what I was saying you got to give him some time. I wasn't talking about you.
His time's up. 7 days is enough. He's already made he's already made 3 bad moves.
It's 1. I think he's made 1 bad move.
No. He accepted the job. That was his first mistake because it's a clusterfuck. That's what this job is. It's absolutely a clusterfuck. That's this job right now. Who's in charge? I don't know. It's not him. Do you think he signed Kyle Palmieri? They just said, here's the only thing, right? What could you say? Well, if he didn't sign Kyle Palmieri and, it would look bad to other to other players.
That's what we heard is because.
Well, you know what I say? What did they learn? What did they do in Tampa? They said, screw you, Ryan McDonough. You're gone. You don't like it? We're sending you somewhere else. We're going to send you to Nashville. We're going to send you wherever. We're just going to wave your ass and somebody else is going to pick you up. That's how they did it in Tampa. This is how they do it on the island. Go on, bring Palmieri back. Bring Anders Lee back. Hey, where's the J.G. Pajot contract extension? Casey Zizekas only has a couple of years left. He's 35 years old. Let's bring him back for another 5 or 6 years. This team's a disaster. It's the worst run franchise of professional sports right now. There's nothing worse. Absolutely nothing. If Winnipeg wasn't named the Jets, we could be the New York Ice Jets, because that's what we are. We're the Cleveland Browns. I hope you Islander fans are happy. This is a failing organization. That's a nice thing I can say, honestly. The nicest thing.
Are you on board to get rid of ownership now, Grump?
They're pathetic. The fact that they let him, when they knew they were firing him, they knew in April he was gone, and they let him extend Fredo and Pellegrini.
Well, yeah, and we want to try to start integrating comments in.
We're going to revamp the whole hockey system, the minor league system, and the first thing you do is sign the king of failure, Fredo, back. Well, what's going to happen? We got rid of the coaches. Well, guess what? The head rots from the top down, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happens.
Here it is. This is at least worth mentioning, right? Now, Andy Strickland, now also Dave Pagnotta, and I don't think too much of Dave Pagnotta, but they did say, hearing that Lou extended the assistant GMs, this is the assistant GMs for the NHL squad, right? Chris Lamoriello, also the GM of the Bridgeport Islanders, but assistant GM of the Islanders, and Steve Pellegrini, also assistant GM of the Islanders, with multi-year extensions just prior to departing the organization. Wow.
What should, if Mathieu Darche is in charge, what should he do? You signed that extension? That's great. You're fired. We're going to pay you for your contracts, and I'm putting my guy in charge.
It explains why nobody wanted, and this job sat vacant for a month plus. It wasn't we were doing our due diligence, right? What did we say last time? We were in a honeymoon stage last episode. Hey, man, they're doing their due diligence. That's why it's taking so long. We're giving the benefit of the doubt. I will tell you, when you see things like this from reporters, from beat writers that are saying this, and guess what? This isn't the ironclad Lou Lamoriello. Everything stays inside the little box anymore. Lou's gone. You're going to see more actual information that's applicable being leaked in multiple different areas on this for this franchise going forward. But when you see people like Andy Strickland going out there and saying, yeah, Lou Lamoriello went ahead and extended his son and Steve Pellegrini, his good old buddy, assistant GM spots for multi-year extensions right before he was fired. Yikes.
Mark my words. This franchise is not winning in the next 10 years. Book it. It's not happening. We're going to have to get a new general manager in there. Somebody with some balls. This kid ain't got it. He's just happy to have the gig. He's just happy to have the job. Whatever you say, boss. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Whatever you say. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's him.
I'll say this, Grumpy. I disagree. I think you got to give him a little bit of a chance. Let's Nick X is putting up some comments here. X, put up some of those comments that are applicable to us. Sorry. We want to read some comments, implement them in, but we knew Grumpy was going to be running a little wild here. Brian Jennings, Grumpy, I'll let you read this.
Good evening, boys from Ontario, Canada. Do you think the Islanders' new GM will announce some sort of timeline outlining the team expectations for making the playoffs perennially? It's not happening. Give it up. Not for the next, who knows how long. I have zero faith in this guy.
And his post game and his presser, he did mention that he thought this team should have been a playoff team last year. Oh, this Islanders team should have been a playoff team. Sorry. Anyway, wicket for the cow, Grump.
Darche definitely wasn't the guy I wanted, but at least he said the prospects both on the North American and European side will get skills coaches. He's full of shit. That's not happening. Darche's drafting and developing is a serious question mark. He's never done any of that. That's why you needed an established hockey man. What do you think Shanahan just turned him down out of hand? He's nope, not interested, because he knew what the situation was. He's like, no self-respecting high-level hockey man of his ilk was taking this job.
Lou from the grave will still be pulling the strings, is what it looks like.
We're stuck with an assistant GM in Darche. That's it. You were stuck with him. No one of any caliber wanted the Islanders job. This is just like it was in the old days. We're back to those times, people.
The bad thing is, it's not like they didn't want the job. The old days, they didn't want the job because we were a joke. We wouldn't put money into the team. Our facilities were shit. That's the reason why people didn't want the job back then. We have all that now. The reason people didn't want the job now, just take your guess, guys. It's because Lou is still controlling so much, and he left his thumbprint on everything. Can you believe, like, the first off, giving his son the extension was absolutely crazy before they canned him, and then ownership signing off on that is nuts. The same thing with Steve Pellegrini. If you're bringing in a new GM, and it makes me wonder, does ownership also
not just new GM, director of hockey ops, who has no control over anything?
That's what I say. Do you also think the ownership saying we want Patrick Waugh still involved? Think about this. You have a new GM who's coming in for a team that's won 3 playoff games in 4 seasons, and he's not changing the head coach. He's keeping the same 2 assistant GMs on the team as well. How does that make any sense? And we're signing back the same guys and cast and crew that led us to another subpar season last year. How does that make sense at all? Go ahead, Grump. I'll let you read this by Frank. But
okay, 1 second. Fredo, 8 years of failure at Bridgeport, and you re-sign him to a long-term deal. Bridgeport has not developed any prospects since Lamoriello has been. Not a one. I don't even count Simon Holmstrom because he was a piece of dog shit until he got up to the big team, which he was forced on by Lamoriello, and Patrick Waugh turned him into a hockey player. He didn't learn that in Bridgeport. I saw this kid play live. He was allergic to wood. He wouldn't go in the front of the net. He was a coward. All of a sudden, he plays for Patrick Waugh. He benches him every once in a while. He teaches him how to be a hockey player, and guess what? Now he's doing those things that he never learned in Bridgeport. This is the guy you're putting, again, in charge of that farm system. I'm sorry. It's the worst farm system in the league. It's disgusting. I can't think of another franchise who's worse off than the Islanders are right now. Not a one.
I think you're being a little hyperbolic.
Name one. Name one who has a worse future than New York Islanders with the horrible GM, with the horrible structure, organizational structure. Buffalo. But guess what? Adams is gone after this year. He's gone.
Maybe.
And how many years have we been ripping Buffalo for the same thing? Just be fair. If you rip Buffalo, you should be ripping the Islanders too.
You should be ripping you out. Now, I will say, again, I'm not as critical on Darche, I think, as you are, but let's get this. Frank says, everybody calm down, especially Grumpy. This was losers' way of giving Fredo a final payment. You'll be fired, but collect a negotiated sum of a buyout. No, they said, and this is in a post-game presser. They asked, "What did you think about doing?" Oh, well, I've got to do some thinking on that. Well, he's not going to fire somebody. And from an organizational standpoint, if owners just went ahead and signed off on giving the assistant GMs extensions, they're not going to fire them just to pay them a whole bunch because they are admitting an issue like that. They're going to be on for at least 1 year. I assume the buyout penalty gets less and less the more years or the less years they have left on the contract, but they were given multi-year extensions by Lou before he was canned, which I think from that standpoint, it really reeks of ownership made a big mess up there, a huge mess up. You knew you were going to fire him, or at least had some thoughts on that. You were letting him extend assistant GM positions. How does that make sense? If you're going to fire the GM, why would you let him extend the assistant GMs?
When you're interviewing Mark Bergevin in April, you know you're getting rid of Lou Lamoriello.
That's correct.
Period. Nick Canetta says, Grumpy, what did you want Darche to do? Ruin a relationship with an agent? Yeah, that'll help us when we already can't bring in top-end talent. Well, you know what I would say? Hey, bro, there's a new sheriff in town. You should have signed that deal instead of waiting. You could have signed that deal at any freaking time. You didn't. Deal's off the table.
Here's a simple thing that you say to the agent. And I know there are people who will fight me on this, but as simple as this. You were given the offer under the prior GM. You didn't sign the offer. I'm not the prior GM. I hope you respect that. I think Kyle Palmieri will find and be a great fit for somebody somewhere, but I cannot honor that same deal. You were given 2 years by $4.75 million. I have a different viewpoint, and I want to force and change the direction of the Islanders into what I view it. I'm the new GM, right? You could have signed the deal prior, but you didn't. If you want to sign Kyle Palmieri, it's 2 years, $3 million or $3.5 million, whatever it would have been. But 2 years, $4.75 million with a full no trade clause the first year, I think is just absolutely ridiculous.
You know what you say?
The first move by Darche. That's all.
You know what you say? Test the market and get back to me at the end. That's
right.
What you say. You just don't sign into that deal because Lamoriello offered it how many months ago, and you were too lazy to put pen to paper. Sorry, you snooze, you freaking lose in this business.
It's like if you're selling and buying a house. If you got an offer that comes in a house and you sat too long on it, well, guess what? Those people are looking to buy houses someplace else. And if you're agent, guess what? Your agent, your job is to tell your client when to sign the paper, and he didn't sign the paper. Well, tough shit. You're going to go ahead and bear a little bit of that onus because you didn't do what was best interest of your client. You thought, what do you think you're going to do? Get more out of Lou Lamoriello? You didn't sign on time. Sorry, I'm the new GM. I'm the new president of hockey operations. I do appreciate what you've done for the Islanders. We'll consider you, but I just can't pay you that same price point that Lou offered. If you want to stay here, I hope you can, but it's going to be at a reduced price. If you don't, then I want you to go someplace else and get us the most money you can. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't burn any bridges with an agent either. X-Pun Grump.
And what else does it do in the long run? I'm going to get to X-Pun in a second. What else does it do in the long run? There's $4.7 million that you cannot offer a free agent, a high-end free agent this year or next year. You cannot do it because you pissed it away on a guy who's going to be 35. You're going to have him for his age 35 and 36-year-old seasons.
34 and 35.
He's going to be 35 in season. So he's not 34. He's 35. This is 35 age season and 36 next year.
Doesn't turn 35 until the tail
end. At this point, I'm waiting to hear the Islanders have traded the first overall pick. No, I don't think they're going to trade it. I think they're just going to pick James Higgins because that's what ownership wants. And he's going to go, yes, sir. I don't care if this other kid is a second coming of Christ. We're drafting James Higgins instead because he likes the Islanders.
I will say, if they draft, I'm not anywhere near as apoplectic as Grumpy. I think Darche having no balls bothers me a little bit. He's going to have to learn that you have to break a few eggs in order to make an omelet in the NHL. You're going to have to go ahead and step. You're going to have to get a little muddy in order to be successful. They got a little muddy when they got rid of Ryan McDonough and they played hardball with him. You have to do things like that. This is not the cul-de-sac, my friend.
And what did Tampa Bay do? They brought McDonough back. Guess what? His agent didn't hold it against because guess what? It's freaking business is what it is.
Yeah.
This is not like what free agents are coming to the Islanders anyway? There are none coming to the Islanders. You only get guys like Anthony freaking Duclair who soaks you. I mean, what name one high-end free agent the Islanders have ever signed? Andrew Ladd? That's it. They've never signed a high-end free agent. So that just doesn't hold water. I'm sorry. To think that this bald clown is going to be better than the old bald clown, I'm sorry. It's just a mistake. This kid was a mistake already. He might grow into be a good GM for his next team, but it won't be for this one.
It's his first week. I'm going to give him some time. Like Grumpy. It's his first week.
No, well, okay. He did everything wrong. Other than that, there's no way to look but up, I guess. Except when he drafts James Higgins.
Fuck. Okay, Drew says here, ownership is a problem. How do they let Lou re-sign Fredo? That's a good question. Don't understand that at all. And I think that shows malfeasance from the ownership group, top down. That's about as bad as it gets.
Woody Johnson would do that.
Woody Johnson would say we need to target Devontae Adams because he's a 99 overall on Madden. So we're going to do everything we can to bring in Devontae Adams.
My son says he's the best on Madden. So that's the guy we're going to give a big money contract to. That's what the New York Brown Ice Jets are doing right now. Cleveland Browns, and because they're shitting themselves and they're on the ice and they run like the Jets. The Brown Ice Jets.
So I disagree a little bit though with you, and that's fine. We're not going to see eye to eye on everything. I do think you got to give Darche some leeway, but I think.
Do you think he's going to do anything this offseason? Anything? No. The answer is no. The answer is no. The answer is no.
Here's the thing I am worried about.
It's going to be the same exact team that ended the season is going to be the team that starts next season. You'll have Barzell back. Everybody else is going to be the same. Every single player is going to be the same. There'll be no changes. Who's he going to move? Who's he going to move? How many of these guys have no move clauses, no trade clauses? When the path of least resistance is just re-signing Kyle Palmieri back and re-signing Adam Boquist. I don't mind Boquist because he makes nothing.
No problem with Boquist. That's just a filling guy. No problem.
Maybe do you sign D'Angelo back?
Well, that's the thing. Why would you not sign D'Angelo back from the performance? I wasn't a huge. He's a big offensive defenseman. He doesn't do much on the defensive side, but why not sign back D'Angelo? Here you go, Tony Cheese Grump.
Can't you pay these people to tell them to go screw and hire someone else? That's what I would do if he was a man. If he was a real GM, a real man, not some cuck, he would say, "Okay, these guys are gone. We're going to give them the Garth Snow treatment. Just let them, staple papers together and then unclip the staples and do that all day long. They're not touching my hockey team."
But seriously, think about it. Does it now make sense why it took the Islanders over a month to find the new GM? Some teams fired a GM and brought a new GM in. I'm talking about the Kings, and there were other teams out there that did the same thing. They fired him after Lou Lamoriello was fired and brought a new GM in immediately. Why do you think guys like Bergevin, who has experience, Kekalainen, who has experience, who's sitting on the couch at home, why do you think Darche was picked? And it took them over a month and a half to do it almost. We didn't interview the extra guys from Dallas and from Florida like we were rumored to do. We didn't do that. We interviewed so many characters. Why do you think it took the Islanders so long to fill that vacant GM spot?
This is like Neil Smith leaving after 40 days when he came in as GM. No self-respecting general manager wanted this job. That's why Darche got it, because he's desperate to be a GM. That's the only way he was going to get the job. He failed at how many other interviews, didn't have what it took to get those jobs, but come here, he's the only choice, and that's the guy they hired. Holland, Bergevin, Kekalainen, Shanahan. None of them wanted anything to do with the New York Islanders. They see how the organizations run, and they say, we want no part of that dysfunction. That's it.
I want to say this. I was not big on Ken Holland, so I'm fine with us not getting him.
He was smart.
Like Bergevin. Guys, like, again, this is after we won the draft lottery as well. Bergevin, not interested. Ken Holland, not interested.
Brendan Shanahan, not interested.
Brendan Shanahan, who was rumored, he's going to be probably in the mix too, because remember, he's got good ties with that. They want to bring him in as the president of hockey operations. He says, no, we don't see eye to eye on certain things. I was fired, and I don't want to take that same exact role for the Islanders. Why do you think that is? Nick says here, Grumpy, you're acting like Frank the Tank does with the Mets right now. You need to relax. The serious question, though, Nick, and to everybody out there, what do you think it shows about the Islanders organization from an ownership group that they signed off on extending the assistant GMs, Steve Pellegrini, and son of current or prior GM, Lou Lamoriello's son, Chris Lamoriello, to an extension when they knew they were going to fire Lou Lamoriello? Why would they do that? They don't allow the new GM to step in to assign assistant GMs because you've inked new GMs, assistant GMs. You've re-signed the same guys. And who knows? I think Patrick Waugh, remember, in the interview, Darche said he had no knowledge and no prior conversations with Patrick Waugh until he walked into the room and met him and said, I had such a good interview with him. I'm going to keep him as my head coach. I don't believe that now for a second. I think the head coach is under the edict to be kept by ownership group, and I think the assistant GMs were signed off stupidly by ownership before they fired Lou Lamoriello. So you brought a GM in who can't bring in new assistant GMs and can't bring in a new head coach. You've handcuffed the guy. I think ownership really screwed the pooch on this.
And you have to sign guys that the other guy offered contracts to that they didn't sign. What power does he have? He's just going to do. And here's the thing: what type of guy would not do that? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you my analogy in a second, but I want to read this from JP. If the Chris Lamoriello, that's Fredo Lamoriello, and Pellegrini extension rumors are true, then that evidence bears itself out after July. Grumpy is 100% right. It's over then. That's it. I'm going to draw you a scenario. In real life, this is like a guy going to marry a woman who's been married, a divorced woman, and you're still going to let that guy bang his wife when he's there. That's what it is.
Hold on.
What it is. Darche is marrying the Islanders, but he's still letting Lamoriello bang his wife.
Explain this to me, because this analogy doesn't make sense, Grumpy.
Okay. Hey, I'm going to be the new husband. I'm going to move in. I got Fredo, his kids. I want to send them off to military school. And here's the thing. I'm going to still let my ex-husband, Lamoriello, bang the wife, even though I'm coming in. Any mistakes that he made, it's okay. And you're going to have to live with that. And you know what he would say? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All righty, Grumpy.
That's it. That's a real life comparison right here.
Well, I'll say this. I will say, I do think we understand why Darche took the job. He's been there. He's been associated with a very successful Tampa team for a while. You just kind of wonder.
Didn't learn anything.
Well, no, you just kind of wonder. It's like, why did he sit there for so long without being hired? Like last week, honeymoon stage. As we said before, I'm like on cloud 9. But I remember Drew and other people mentioning, like, oh, TJ, why don't you seem so excited about this? I'm like, it's like the backup quarterback. Until moves start getting made, you really don't know if you like the guy yet or not. And most times with the backup quarterback, he starts throwing a 3 or a 4 interception game, and you're just in the same exact spot you were prior. So I'll say this. I think they handcuffed Darche, but Darche, I mean, man, unless that was a stipulation to take the job that these are the things you don't have any room to negotiate on, I just find it hard to believe that he talked that deal was signed by Darche, but it was offered by Lou. I'm like, any GM worth his weight in salt would say, no, the other guy offered that. You could have signed that offer immediately. There was no stipulation that you couldn't sign it. You didn't, though. I'm the new GM now. We're going to do things the way I'd like to do things. If you'd like to go someplace else, there's 31 other teams that I'm sure would be happy to take you and maybe offer you $4.75 million. We're changing the direction of our team. But he didn't do that.
He's not just new GM. He's director of hockey operations. He's in charge, and he's still getting cucked by the old regime.
Yeah.
George Pace says, you put Chris in a men's room attendant. You put them in absolutely miserable jobs. That's what they did to Gar Snow. You know what? They're smart. Are you kidding me? Fredo could do 3 years standing on his head. He's been nothing but riding his daddy's coattail since he was a newspaper boy when he got him the job for the Providence Journal. I mean, delivering that paper. I mean, it's not like he's going anywhere that his daddy's not.
Yeah, Matthew put this up. I'll say this here, and X, I'll let you plop him back up here in a second too. But yes, this was reported by Andy Strickland. It's been reported by Dave Pagnotta, and I promise you, Andy Strickland, Dave Pagnotta, I don't trust as much. Andy Strickland has no reason to start just throwing fake shit out there. He's saying when he's hearing that from multiple sources, we haven't heard that directly from sources yet, but you have multiple people tweeting that out. I would not be shocked at all. And it aligns with them saying, oh, hey, we want to figure out what we have, for the assistant GMs. I have never, just look historically, when they bring a new GM in, does that GM say, let's keep the same exact assistant GM?
President of hockey ops.
Yes, I'm sorry. I keep underplaying it. He is a GM and the president of hockey operations. When they bring in a new GM, when Lou Lamoriello was brought in, did he keep the same head coach? Did he keep the same assistant GMs? Like, what did he do? He was GM and president of hockey operations. Did he keep everybody the same? Fuck no.
He moved them all out and brought his own guys in. Yeah. Except for Fredo.
Fredo was here, yes. Fredo was promoted
for 1 year. That's
right. Promoted. Yeah, he was promoted to the assistant GM spot under his daddy. So again, but they all have guys that they want to work with, relationships that they developed, and we're keeping the same head coach. Lamoriello didn't keep the same head coach. He got rid of him. He brought in Barry Trotz, big time head coach, brought in the new head coach, and he changed and he has new assistant GMs. Why is Darche? Just think about it. Seriously, critically think about it. Why is Darche keeping the same assistant GMs and keeping the same exact head coach? Why would he do that? That doesn't make sense, right? This team has won 3 playoff games in 4 years. You want to keep the same assistant GMs and the same exact head coach? That doesn't make sense. Matthew
Bridgeport has like a 300 winning percentage since Lamoriello's been in charge there.
Last year was the worst winning percentage in the history of the AHL. The history of the AHL. He's the GM of that, and he's the assistant GM of the NHL squad.
And this is the guy you want to keep long. You want to give him an extension. What does it take to get fired from that team?
Don't know.
I mean, you got to be a perennial loser like Lamoriello was. But what's he do? He deviled up the Islanders. Just what he did. He tried to ruin them as much as he possibly could. Drew says, the fact that the fans didn't realize Lou only GM'd out of self-interest instead of what was best for the team. The fact that so many people defended Lou's stupid decisions makes them look really stupid. Absolutely. A lot of Islander fans, not the people listening to the show, but most Islander fans are really morons. I've been listening to them, and I'm like, my God, you are so stupid. It's scary how dumb some of these people are. It really is. It's tough being an intelligent Islander fan. It really is. Rick Roma says, why is it that Strickland breaking this news? Isn't that the blue guy? Where are the Islanders beat writers?
There's a lot going on behind the scenes with the Islanders beat writers. That's what I'd say. Here's the thing. They're now in a spot to where they can get access to information that they have not had since Lou has stepped back in. They don't want to go around burning shit out of bridges right now. They don't. They want to, like, I was, and this has nothing to do at all with Stefan, but I asked him, I was like, because he had an open space on Friday, I think, or Thursday. I was just like, how is it now that, the curtain that Lou had, where it was like no information got out, we're going to get information, like, because Darche is like, oh yeah, hey, Bo Horvat has a sprained ankle, he'll be back in 4 to 6 weeks. I'm like, man, it's going to be so refreshing to hear what the injuries may actually be and kind of time frames instead of 4 to 6 week injury or out indefinitely. Those are the only 2 types of injuries that Lou would ever classify: lower body 4 to 6 weeks or out indefinitely lower body. We'd have no sort of context. And what you're going to see under Darche, it's not going to be kept as close to the vest like Lou did. So you're going to have more information out there. I don't think they want to start releasing too much, if that makes sense, right off the bat. My opinion. Rick Roma, though, that's why. But why would Andy Strickland, if he's hearing that from multiple sources, why would he be making that up? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense.
No one's making it up. Elliot Friedman mentioned stuff too.
Well, Elliot Friedman mentioned with the Kyle Palmieri, the deal was offered. That's what I mean. The deal was offered by Lou and then rubber stamped by Darche. That just, again, kind of shows you that, hey, Lou was still doing things, and Lou was doing things right till the tail end. And now Darche comes in and he's just kind of like, all right, I'm signing off on everything that my predecessor said and I'm just going to accept it. Like, I don't know, just odd for president of hockey operations and a new GM just to rubber stamp everything the prior guy who did such a poor job that he was fired did. But Frank, Grumpy.
Grump, smarten up. You didn't see that Lou did this before he was fired? You think Darche did this? Come on, man.
I think.
Okay.
That's exactly what we're saying.
Why do you think no self-respecting president of hockey ops even wanted the job? They did not want the job. There's a reason. This is a massive undertaking, and Lamoriello is even more hamstrung the process than was previously known. Yep. No one wanted the Islanders' job, period.
Wicked 50 Callus said Stefan Rosner said that he believes the report from Andy Strickland to be true.
There you go.
Yep, and that report is that Lou Lamoriello gave his son, Chris Lamoriello, and Steve Pellegrini, the assistant GMs, both multi-year extensions before getting fired. Michael T. It's like golden handcuffs. That's why I'm like, I don't understand when people aren't upset with that. Do you remember when great financial crisis happened and all these people getting golden handcuffs and they were melting the financial system?
Parachutes.
Yeah, parachutes, whatever it was. Yes, but it's just like they're getting paid out the ass. And it's like people are upset about that. Why are we not upset about our GM who is getting canned, giving his son and his good buddy, Steve Pellegrini, big multi-year extensions before he got canned? You know what I mean? We should be upset about that.
He's loyal to his guys, that's for certain.
He really is.
Michael D says, what would an acceptable trade for a first overall pick? Or do we take the top pick and don't accept any offers? Okay, what they should do and what they're probably going to do are 2 different things. I think if you let Darche make the pick, you probably Jonathan Taves says he wants to come back and play. So maybe the first overall pick to Chicago for Jonathan Taves, and then drop down to 3, and then we'll pick Hagens, and then Taves will say, "No, I'm retiring it," and he says, "No, I'm not reporting," and he's going to go back to Chicago. That's probably what the Islanders would do. But no, you should not trade that pick. You should pick Matthew Schaefer. He's the best player in the draft.
Matthew Schaefer should be the selection. The other thing I want to mention with this, if the Islanders draft James Hagens, I'm totally off board with Darche. I'm totally off board with this ownership group. It tells you all you need to know about this team. Because
he's dropping like a stone.
Craig Button has him like number 8 now. Guys don't even have him in the top 5. He's dropping like a stone for a reason. And if you piss away the first overall pick on a guy who had a poor year in his draft class year, remember, Ratu did the same thing.
Dropped in the second round.
Year, but he dropped. He was supposed to be a consensus first. He was supposed to be a top 5 pick. Then a consensus, he's at least going to be a first rounder. Dropped to the second round because he had a really bad draft class year season. There's no need to use the first overall pick on him. If we do draft James Hagens, I am completely petrified. Ownership has their hands. Ownership has much more involvement than what they've alluded to, and they're completely they're rotten from the core.
Brian Jennings says, as a lifetime Islander fan, yet again I feel more of the same in the future. Spano, Milbury, Wong, no new arena. This current clusterfuck. The Islanders don't deserve my loyalty. You know what? That's fair.
I will say this. Okay, I'm not going to bag on Darche yet. I've been very critical of ownership for a while, and I still am. I think this just looks, again, like another colossal mess up by ownership. They took way too long to fire a failed GM in Lou Lamoriello, and they let the guy sign his assistant GMs, his son and his buddy, to extensions when they were going to fire him. It just makes it really look like ownership is incompetent, is the way it looks. I'm not blaming things on Darche yet. I think that it was a bad first move by him, but ownership, man, oh man, am I worried and concerned about ownership. Drew Grumpy.
Grumpy, with all due respect, you got to give Darche more of a chance. No, I don't. It's not like Anders Lee and Pajot have agreed to have a handshake agreement. Plus, Darche hasn't even brought in his own scouts. Well, he's not going to bring his own scouts now. They cut him off at the knees. They say, As soon as they found out he was interviewing for the Islander job, you know what they said? You're not listening. You are not doing anything with you. You're not involved in anything. That's what Tampa does.
That's correct. I just add context. Tampa, once they heard that he was interviewing for other spots, said, we're cutting your access off completely. Get out, essentially. We're not giving you access to any of our proprietary information. You're gone.
That's what winning franchises do.
Yep.
They don't want you to take their. Believe me, Tampa Bay knows how to draft a hell of a lot better than the Islanders do. You think they want them? They taking that information with them? No way. It's going to be the same old, same old. These are the same scouts who were there during Lamoriello, the same scouts who were there under Garceau. No one ever gets fired from this organization.
It is worth saying Tampa didn't have a first-round pick, so their draft strategy, I'm sure, was a little different. But maybe some of those gems later on that they were identifying, they didn't want Darche to have any of that information, so they said, nope, we're cutting you off.
Which they're really good at as well.
Yep. Matthew S. said, Palmieri's contract is not terrible. It's only 2 years. And you're right. It's not terrible. But here's the issue I've got with it, Matthew. It's more of, from Darche's perspective, if you feel like if that was not a good offer, you couldn't say no because it was offered by the prior GM or you had to honor that. We've already been through that. We've already been through a guy who wouldn't trade away a guy like Zach Parise because he had a handshake deal in place. I wouldn't trade away Chara at the deadline or Parise at the deadline because I had a handshake deal. I'm not going to trade away this guy because I don't need guys operating on handshake deals. I need a guy doing what's in best interest of the Islanders, and I don't feel like that is the best. Signing 34-year-old winger Kyle Palmieri, is that going to make us a Stanley Cup contender? No. Is the answer to that question. On the Florida Panthers, is Kyle Palmieri a top 6 forward?
He's a fourth liner on that team.
He's best case scenario, a third liner, probably a fourth liner.
He's a fourth liner. He don't make that third line.
On the Dallas Stars, is Kyle Palmieri a top 6 guy?
No. He's not a top 6 liner on any good team.
That's what I'm about to say. On all these Stanley Cup contending teams, Kyle Palmieri is not a top 6 guy. There's no need to bring back and to sign a bottom on a good team, a bottom 6 forward to a 2-year, $4.75 million extension. I'm sorry. I don't see it. I think Matthew, the thing I'm more upset with is what it could lead to in the future for us. The deal is not it's not like it's going to be a backbreaking deal, but it's like we were hoping to get away from the nepotism and the continuing to bring back the same old cast and crew and the cul-de-sac mentality. And the first move that Darche makes a week into his tenure, he says, let's go ahead and bring back the cul-de-sac. I just don't like that feeling. I just was hoping we'd finally get away from that, and it doesn't look like that's the case. X-Pun Grumpy says here, this team will never be great again. Effing sad. I'm not sure about never, but it's not great, right? Freedom from Adventure. Go ahead.
I just want to mention this. That's not a bad contract for Palmieri. You want to know what Palmieri's numbers were in the 20 games after Brock Nelson was traded? You want to just guess how many points he had? I'm
guessing in 20 games that he was traded, I'm guessing Palmieri had something like 6 points.
He had 4 goals and 3 assists.
7 points.
7 points, and he scored 3 of those points in one game. In one game, he scored 3 of those points. That was it. Oof. That's it. That was against Pittsburgh, shitty Pittsburgh. Okay, so he did absolutely nothing after Nelson left. He's finished as a player. He's absolutely finished. He should have been dealt at the deadline. Get yourself a second-round pick and a prospect. It doesn't even matter what it is. You take that second-round pick, you package it with something else, you move up later into the first round to get somebody that you really want, somebody who has skill. That's what you do. That's how you manage assets. When you just sign back guys like this, you're going nowhere. What a mistake.
Here's the thing I do want to mention, right? Palmieri was playing 18 minutes and 31 seconds a night last year. Holy crap. That's like first line minutes. This is what that equates to. He played power play, penalty kill. He played all over the place. But think about this. Last 2 years, he's been healthy the entire season. Prior to years, he missed about anywhere from like 20, 25 plus games. This guy was a minus 16 2 years ago, minus 17 this last year. It would not be out of the ordinary to expect your 34-year-old winger to miss time with injury and to be back. I mean, like, he's on the downside. I just don't get it. It doesn't help the team. And you pretty much gave him the exact same contract he's already got with a full no trade clause the first year. Bad decision. Here you go. Freedom Fund Adventure.
TJ, you lazy moron. Darche didn't do these deals. This was Lou salting the earth and burning the city on his march out of town. He is evil and mean. Reports are he signed his POS son Fredo and Steve Pellegrini. That's right.
Well, those two are true. But the deal, I know for a fact, we've been told this by multiple people, that the deal was originally offered. And Elliot Freeman mentioned this too. The deal was originally offered by Lou. Kyle Palmieri did not sign the deal. Lou got fired, and then Darche rubber stamped it at the end when he was brought in. I'm sorry. That's like, I need a little bit better from Darche. Okay. Bad first move by him. That's all I'm saying. It's a bad first move.
Worst case scenario is he didn't have a plan when he came into the team.
That could be it.
That's possible too, right? He didn't. Okay. I don't really have a plan. I'm just happy to have the job. Let's just do this.
He did meet with Lou Lamoriello and talked with him for about 3 or 4 hours. He said when he took the job, he was the first guy he spoke with, and he spoke with him for about 3 or 4 hours, getting the ins and the outs of the Islanders organization.
Well, look at the standings. That's all you need to look at to know this team sucks.
Tim Ward, Grumpy
should just become a hometown Canes fan. Never seen anyone more negative in my life. Here's the thing, Tim. I've been following this team for a long, long time. I know a loser when I see one. This is a losing organization. I'm sorry. The Mets, a losing organization. The Brooklyn Nets, losing organization. There are certain teams that are just losers. Yankees are winners. The Giants have historically been winners. The Jets are losers.
I want Darche to be good so bad. I do. I want him to be good. It's just not off to a great start. I think anybody saying, oh, that was a great first move by Darche, you're lying to yourself. If that was Lou Lamoriello, just imagine, close your eyes, and Lou Lamoriello said, we're bringing back Kyle Palmieri for $4.75 million. Everybody say, why are we bringing back the same shitty players on the same team that's not good enough to win or compete for a Stanley Cup and not even good enough to make the playoffs? We've missed the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. Why are we bringing back the same exact cast and crew?
Just remember.
Same thing for Darche. Why?
Just remember, if Brock Nelson would have accepted that deal, he'd still be on the team.
That's correct.
No change is happening. I don't think there's going to be, honestly, I don't think there's going to be any change, because any self-respecting hockey ops guy, G/GM, should say, I want to look at the roster realistically and then make moves at the deadline. That's what I think is going to happen. But he has 9 NHL-ready defensemen. He's going to have to move some of them.
This right here, Matthew C. Perfect. He says, I love how the defense to Fredo being back is Darche can still fire him. The ownership group canned the entire radio crew to save $300,000. They aren't paying extra assistant general managers to come in to be added on the books. You are 110% right, Matthew.
That's comment of the night. That's comment of the night, right? So true. So true.
Fired the entire radio crew. Remember, we talked about it earlier on this year. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
Too cheap to keep the radio crew. Too cheap.
Now all of a sudden, we're going to fire the guys we just signed to multi-year extensions and to hire new guys. We're going to pay Chris and his buddy Steve Pellegrini extra just to say, hey, we're going to get the assistant GMs we want. Absolutely not. That's a great point, Matt C. Absolutely fantastic. Rick,
who knows how long they wanted to fire Lamoriello, but waited till his contract expired. Right? Maybe they wanted to, but they're so cheap now that they don't want to spend any real money. When was the last time they spent any real money?
I don't know. Tough to say. I will say they are at the cap ceiling all the time. So I'm not sure, but I do think this team
it's because of the shitty deals.
Rick Roma.
A new GM who had to keep Palmieri and Boquist because Lou had a handshake deal. What the F is that? Handcuffing the new GM. It's hockey ops, not just GM. Direct. He's in charge. This is the guy in charge. You're handcuffing the guy you put in charge.
Yeah, absolutely, Rick Roma. That is why I'm concerned. And I think fans should be concerned about that. It's only a weekend, but that should be concerning.
Freedom Front Bench goes, ownership should have told Lou, we aren't honoring these contracts for the front office, but will for the players because you have no choice. Darche can send them home if he wants. There will be a new front office. I think Matt C. had it. I wish I would have come up with it because it was such a brilliant take.
Correct.
If they're canning the radio crew for $300,000, you think they're going to eat what? How much do they get?
$1 million deals?
Well, maybe between the two of them, $1 million and a half, right?
They're going to get paid more than $1 million together. They'll get paid more than $500K each.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that.
In New York? Come on, please.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're in minor leagues.
No.
Pellegrini,
he was the GM of Bridgeport and the assistant GM of the Islanders, and Pellegrini's the cap advisor and the assistant GM. They're both probably getting paid $1 million each.
I don't think they're getting that much.
Let's say $1 million plus. They're together getting paid.
Maybe 600,000 each.
Something like whatever it is, $1 million plus. They're not after we can the entire radio crew.
They're not going to eat those deals.
I agree.
At least I don't think they will. I hope they do. They should. That's what Darche said. For me to take the job, now how would this been? No, I'm not doing that either. They wouldn't have a GM. They go into the draft with John Collins out there.
My God. Now, I did like this. It was funny. It's like I was on cloud 9 earlier on this week. I like this by Darche. I like this by the team. I like this the way we're doing this. Now, Darche was like calling up a few like season ticket owners, and I'll let you listen. And I thought this was kind of neat. I was like, man, seems like a guy who really maybe cares. Let's listen.
Please leave your message for
Ken, this is Mathieu Darche, the new GM of the New York Islanders. We want to call and just say hello. I know you've been a fan for a long time and you're season ticket holders. So unfortunately, we couldn't get a hold of you, but I'm saying hi and thanks for being a loyal supporter of the New York Islanders. Well, our goal is to make you a proud Islander fan, and that's what we're going to be working towards in the coming years. So take care and have a good day.
Okay, I did like that. Okay, first off, it may seem nitpicky. If you're going to call on speakerphone, if you hold it like flat on a surface, you're going to get reverb. The messages that come through clearly. You got to pick the phone up there, Mathieu Darche on the mobile.
Hold it like a piece of pizza.
That's right. Got to hold it up.
Okay.
I did like this. I did like him doing things like this. I was happy. It was funny. Early half of the week, super happy. It was like a confluence of shitty events, like bang, 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 one after the other.
What does it tell you? Ticket sales are way down.
Yep.
Way down season ticket sales. And then you got a guy who looks like he doesn't have any other clothes but Islander gear now.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that, though. I want this guy to be Islanders blue and orange. I'm fine with that.
I think first of all, he had to have someone. He's like, "Can you take me to the New York Islanders building?" He's like, "Who?" I don't know how to get there either. But now he's all 100% in. Good for him. If he wants to make the team better, he should quit as general manager. That's what he should do.
Come on, give him a little bit of a break. 1 week on the job.
Yeah, okay. Has it been a success or a failure?
I think he needs to man up a little bit. He needs to take charge and say, I'm in charge. I'm the president of hockey ops. I'm the GM. What I say goes. And if you don't like that, I'll leave. That's what he needs to do.
Success or failure? First week on the job.
I'd say underwhelming.
Failure. It's a failure. Matthew S. says, there's no way Fredo lasts long if he's extended. Once Lou is gone next month, his son's expendable. Not if they gave him a multi-year extensions. They're not getting rid of those guys.
And I think, again, as Matt C. brought it up, the team was so cheap, we got rid of the entire radio crew to save $300,000 to try to do this multicast thing that would save us money. That could turn a little bit more of a profit, and we could fire a few humans out of that in that ordeal.
They asked him, well, what about Lamoriello and Pellegrino? Well, I'm going to, have to look into that, and I need more time to look at that. Okay, well, dude, you've had time. What's your stance now?
Are you trying to tell me before taking the job, which you interviewed for like a few weeks ago, you didn't think, what should I do with my assistant GM? Should I just keep the same assistant GMs, the same head coach? Should I just keep everything the same, or do I want to try to make an imprint and kind of bring guys I'm familiar with in?
Not 1, 2, 3 times he interviewed.
Yeah.
3 times. And you never gave that a thought?
Did want to bring this up here real quickly. A big thing, and we'll read this bit by bit. Mathieu Darche did say on the TVA Sports, he said he mentioned that Matt Barzal, Bo Horvat, Noah Dobson, Alexander Romanov, and Sorokin as the core of the team. And he complimented how deep the team's organization is down the middle.
He's just lying. How are they strong down the middle?
They like Pajot. Everybody's like, oh, Pajot.
He's 33 years old.
I do want to listen. I'll read you here because it's in French. He's going to speak in French. I don't need to listen to it. But I'll read you.
Guess what, Mathieu Darche? Speak freaking English. That's your fan base.
I know. He was on a Canadian. This is on a Canadian telecast, Grumpy. So he's going to speak. A French telecast. He's going to speak French. That's simple.
We don't know what he said. Probably said "Sacre bleu." We suck again.
Oh man, what the hell? I thought it had. Oh. Maybe it doesn't? Question mark? I thought this had the breakdown of it in English. My apologies. I thought when I was looking at this earlier, it did, but maybe it did not. Anyway,
you don't need to see more film of how bad the Islanders suck this year.
Oh God. Okay. What next comment?
What
next comment do we have up there?
Craig, the regular human bartender, says Stefan made it known that Lou had no say after his contract, hoping this is the best scenario, that it turns itself around quickly. Not a fan of Chris or Kyle contracts. Yeah, why are you signing Kyle Palmieri back? The team is not good enough to sign 33, 34-year-old forwards. They're just not good enough. It's dumb. Tom says, Darche stinking up the joint already with honoring the loser's lousy contract offers. Absolutely. That's why no one wanted the job. Now you know why. At the end of the day, it all comes out. We didn't know. Gosh, what's it taking so long? Why are these guys not being hired? Why are they not being offered the job? They all turned them down.
We gave them the benefit of the doubt too. We really did, looking at it through an optimistic lens, saying they're doing their due diligence. They want, and I remember I said I was a little worried about that. I thought I was worried because of Lou being in charge still and having some sort of, he's going to be an advisor or whatever. But we gave him the benefit of the doubt. I'll tell you now, with more context, it does not look like it was because they're doing their due diligence. I think a lot of guys turned them down, and that's a problem.
And let's just say we have a show to do today. So, things could change, a week from now, 2 weeks from now. But as of right now, he's not done a good job as GM.
It's one weekend. Grumpy is more upset about it than I am.
We have a show to do today, though. We have a show to do today. Not 6 months ago. 6 months from now is another show and another time. As of right now, he's a failure. If they draft James Higgins, all bets are freaking off.
If they draft James Higgins, I just don't believe in this ownership group at all.
I don't believe in him now.
I'll say this. I will say it was not a good first move by him. Not the end of the world like Grumpy's making it, but not a good first move by Darche. That's all. Tom Grumpy. Oh, I'm sorry.
Freedom Fund Adventure. TJ, these deals are agreed and signed long ago. Not true.
They were not. Elliot Friedman reported they weren't.
No, they were not signed until just this week.
No, they weren't. And we've heard from very close sources as well that those deals were originally offered by Lou, then they were rubber stamped as well. I'll use the proverbial rubber stamped by Darche. It was reported it, and other people we know absolutely who've confirmed that information for us too. So
that's what the agents this week before they were signed.
Yep. Yeah. Drew, grumpy old man.
The moves are going to happen at the 2026 trade deadline. You mark my words, Lee and Pajot will be gone by then. Well, we'll see. They should be. They should be.
I do really quickly want to read here our ad read. Today's podcast is brought to you by DraftKings. The fastest game on ice just hit another gear. Welcome to the Stanley Cup playoffs, where legends are made and every shift could turn the tide. And now the DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can take every slap shot, breakaway, and overtime thriller to the next level. New to betting on the Stanley Cup playoffs, you are in for an exciting time. Getting started is a breeze. Fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook app, pick your team to win, lock in a wager, and you're off to the races. It's fast, it's simple, and it puts you right in the middle of the action. Again, we've talked about it in the Stanley Cup Finals. It's going to be a rematch, Edmonton against Florida. You could say, I'm picking Edmonton to win, just like I am. I'm picking Edmonton to beat those Florida Panthers. Or you could be on Grumpy side and pick Florida to beat the Edmonton Oilers. You could go ahead and pick certain players to score in certain games. You know, you could pretty much bet on anything that you want regarding NHL and playoffs. How many shots are going to be there? How many saves? You know, who's going to get points, assists? Who's going to win? Who's going to hoist the Stanley Cup first? You know, based off the team who wins. You can literally bet on anything on DraftKings. Here's the kicker. New customers who bet just $5 will score $300 in bonus bets if their wager hits. That's right. Turn $5 into a playoff payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code THPN. Again, that's promo code THPN to unlock $300 in bonus bets if your $5 bet wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available if you have a problem for gambling. Call 888-79-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of the Boot Hill Casino and Resort. You must be 21 years or older, but age varies by jurisdiction. It's void in Ontario. Bet must win in order to receive the reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.com/audio.
Very nice. I just want to let Drew know that the Knicks are bowing out of the playoffs tonight. Just like I told you, Drew, Indiana going to the finals.
There it is.
That's what the NBA wanted. Indiana against OKC in the finals.
Nice.
Boy, ratings going to be down for that one.
Did you read this yet, Grump?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Robert Marshall.
With senile Lou and little Chrissy still here, I'm not thinking he's even making the move, Grumpy. I don't know what that's a reference to.
I don't know. Lou and Chris Pellegrini or Steve Pellegrini. I don't know. Chris Lamoriello. Lou and Chris Lamoriello.
I don't. Craig, the regular human bartender, says this may be an evaluation year. It should be. I think it's going to be. It's been a week. Let's see what happens. Lou hamstrung this new GM, director of hockey operations, in multiple ways. Let's see how it unfolds before writing it off. I'm just going to say, since we have a show to do every week, he's taken a big F this week.
I think for this week, it's a failing week. But again, it's a confluence of multiple. I'm not saying, Darche, he's an F as a GM like Grumpy is right now. I'd say this. I'm unhappy with his first move as GM. That is about as honest as I could be. I'm unhappy with the first move.
I think he doesn't have a spine. I think that's the biggest thing to come out of this.
That is a worry. You gotta, if you're gonna say no, I want to push back on ownership. They're asking because again, it doesn't look like ownership has completely no hands involvement in some of this stuff. Here you go. I guess we'll put up the next one. Michael T.
So Grumpy, are you saying you'd want Luke to come back? Luke, who's Luke?
Lou. Grumpy.
No. It's more distressing that no one wanted this job. No one wanted director of hockey ops job. They offered it around Shanahan. Can we interview Shanahan? Oh, after the season, yeah, you can interview. He's like, no, I don't want to interview with that job
because they all fired. I don't want to interview.
They all talk. They all talk. Ken Holland.
He's like, Gorton. Hey, we'll get Gorton in here. Let's interview Gorton.
Nope.
Oh, hey, Montreal doesn't want to let. Maybe Gorton just didn't want to be interviewed.
Kakalainen.
He's like, oh, just say I don't want to be interviewed.
Kakalainen. Nope. Anyone who's actually done the job before didn't want it. It's just that plain and simple. When they saw all the caveats and all this, that, and how they really don't have any control over the full organization to start, because it's a massive rebuild and you're already hamstringing whoever comes in. The only guy who's willing to take it is a first-time guy. And I think, as I said last week, if he's the director of hockey ops, it's too big a job for a guy as a first-timer. He's never even been a GM before, and now he's in charge of the whole operation. Well, it seems like he's not. Tom says, correct, Grumpy. Nobody wanted this job after learning all the shit they'd have to put up with for ownership and the leftovers from Lou's reign. That's a very fair comment, Tom. Nick Canada said, that's on ownership, not Darche. Losing it on Darche over this is not a fair shake to him. Well, you know what? He could have said, this is the way it has to be for me to take the job.
I think Grumpy wanted the guy to be a lion, and he's not, because it looks very clear that he looks like a mouse and a sheep. And I will say this. You can grow in and fill those shoes eventually. But for a guy who was in charge of hockey operations for the Tampa Bay Lightning now for about like 8+ years. That was his original role with the Lightning. And then he joined as an assistant GM. You would expect him to say, no, this is how we're going to do things. But he just doesn't have that in him. At least not yet. Next comment there, Rump.
Pellegrini I have no problem with. We know Lou controlled him. Yeah, why both guys? He was doing the contracts. Darche he was the cap guy in Tampa. Why did he need Pellegrini? He didn't even need him. Bring your own guys in. Why are you gonna be stuck with guys losers from the previous losing regime? You're just the loser cherry on top. That's all you are. Drew says, I actually have a conspiracy theory. I think the Fredo extensions came before they even considered firing Lou. So that's in April. It's in April. Yes. It was only after the trade deadline where ownership group considered firing Lou. I don't think so. When Malkin Nate makes a trip to go out west in April, he's thinking about it before then.
Never travels with the team. Never.
He never does anything with the team. All of a sudden he says, I'm taking a team trip. No, just not happening. He'd been thinking, it's like in the movie Slapshot. You had the owner of the team going on the road with the boys. Well, he'd been in secret communication long before he went on that road trip. Know he was unhappy with Lamoriello before. He was unhappy with the direction of the team because people were not showing up. That's all he cares about. The ownership only cares about putting butts in the seats. And how many times have I said it? The Islander fans are disguised as empty seats every single game. That's when it hurts ownership, when it's taking money out of their pocket. That's when they want change. Otherwise, they don't care.
Yeah. Here you go, Grumpy. Rich Arnold.
Well, boys, it looks like we're going to have the same team, just swapping Nelson for Richie. That's fair. Yeah. Barry Richards says, then why did Darche fire the AHL and NHL coaching staff except for Waugh? Who says he fired?
He fired the assistant coaches were fired on the NHL staff. So, like, is that
they were gone?
X, don't remove that. God, X. Anyway, so yes, they fired the assistant coaches on the NHL, and they fired the. Okay, does it
McLean's
seem like
contract
a far-fetched conclusion where they fired the AHL head coach when they had the statistical worst season in the history of the AHL? Is that to be expected? Lou should have done that. Anybody should have done that. That was a no-brainer. And you fired the guys who were as the assistants of the special teams coaches. Yeah, okay. We finished with the worst power play and the worst penalty kill unit in the NHL. That would be expected, right?
And those were guys that were foisted upon Patrick Waugh by Lou Lamoriello. They were ex-Devil guys, Tommy Albin and John McLean. Yep. McLean's contract was up. Yes, and Albin had 1 year left.
Remember, McLean was brought on after the issue. We were going to hire somebody else as an assistant coach, but he had the issue with like the United States team, like the scandal that went on or something like that. And they went last minute with McLean because he was just like a default guy at that point.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with Darche. Those moves are already done as well.
Yes.
And Patrick Waugh said, I don't want these guys on the coaching staff. At the end of the season, I don't want these guys. That's what happened. I guarantee you.
I tried it for a year. I didn't like it. We didn't see eye to eye on A, B, C, D, and E. I want them gone.
And it didn't work. And now you're going to see they're going to be guys that Patrick Waugh picks. Not Mathieu Darche. Patrick Waugh is going to pick the guys to be his assistant coaches. I think that's fair to say.
I will say that, as I've always mentioned, the head coach should get some say who his assistant coaches are. Simple.
Freedom Front of It says TJ the drama queen. He'll bring his own assistant GMs. He will neuter Fredo. He may keep Pellegrini if he finds value. It was evil by Lou. I guess he didn't need owner approval on contracts. Well, I cannot believe that.
Signs off on that. Ownership group signs off on that. I would assume.
They sign up on everything.
Just like, again, like if you're saying, hey, we're trading Matt Barzal, you think he wouldn't run that by ownership? They absolutely do. They have some level of responsibility to have that done. Jesus. Okay. To get back to the other item, as we mentioned earlier, they're not going to be getting rid of the assistant GMs who were just given multi-year deals. When we got rid of the entire radio staff to save $300,000 in the budget, they're not getting rid of and bringing two brand new. They're not paying 4 assistant general manager contracts right now when we're saving $300,000, getting rid of the entire radio staff. Michael T says, what is Darche's contract exactly? No idea. None. Haven't heard anything on that. Not really too concerned on that yet either. Rick Roma.
Darche is the first-time GM. He can't say that. There are 32 GM jobs and only a couple open up per year. If Darche had to eat shit on the Palmieri contract, I can't blame him. Well, then he's not the man for the job.
What I'm worried about.
And he's not just the GM. He's in charge of the whole hockey operation. It's why the other guys, guess what? There's only 32 jobs, and they said, we're passing on your job.
What the reason I'm concerned, I don't have an issue with Darche. Not yet. I do wish he was a little bit more of a lion and said, I don't care about the Palmieri thing. I don't care what was offered. I mentioned that earlier on in the show. I think I've made that very clear. The issue I have is with ownership. Ownership was signing off on the extension, multi-year extensions to assistant GM jobs when they knew they were going to fire Lou Lamoriello. That's a real big issue from ownership standpoint. I don't have an issue with Darche. Not yet, at least. But he's coming here. We know why he took the job. He's being hamstrung. Hey, no, you're going to keep the same assistant GMs. You got to keep the same head coach. They're not getting rid of anybody in the key positions. A new guy who's a president of hockey operations and GM doesn't bring in any assistant GMs and a new head coach. That doesn't add up. But yeah.
Hello, Jeff. Not surprised with Chris, huh? With Fredo. His name's Fredo. Can't they reverse that? No.
Unfortunately not.
Believe me. He didn't waste any time signing his contract.
His daddy said, I want to be fired. You better sign that thing quick, son. Same thing with you, Steve. Here's your little golden parachute.
He's like, Pop, you're getting fired. Can you whip up a contract for me? No problem. I just give me your signature. I'll fill in all the appropriate stuff. John Robert Barra says, well, we shall know very soon what kind of GM this guy is. I don't think we're going to find out very soon.
I think he's going to keep things as status quo as possible. I think he wants to keep the team competitive. And unfortunately, as we've mentioned before, which is the issue we have with Lou, this team is not anywhere close to being a Stanley Cup contender. This team needs to take a step back to be a cup contender. And I was hoping a new GM would see it that way, but I'm not sure Darche does. Brian Jennings.
Do you think Islanders management meeting is literally just a circle jerk? Yes.
No, I'm not sure about that.
Here's the thing. I don't even think the owners, with the exception of Collins now, have any idea what's going on. I don't think they have any idea about hockey at all. I think Collins does. But I mean, I just don't understand how any of them signed off on letting Lamoriello do certain things when they knew he was out the door. Just a mistake.
Hey, we're going to fire Lou. Hey, Lou, knock, 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 knock. Hey, you're not allowed to offer any sort of contract extensions, and we're not allowing you to extend any sort of items for the management side or the player personnel decisions. Right now, we're doing some thinking about what we want our future of the organization to look like. Anything you're going to do has to run directly through us. Simple. Rich Arnold.
And why do you give a 34-year-old a no trade clause? I mean, is there really that much demand for guys who score, without Brock Nelson would have had maybe 30 points last year? Is there a great demand for 34-year-old 30-point right wingers. I don't think there is.
He doesn't want to have to go ahead and, for 1 year, the contract live someplace else. He wants to only maybe not have to be on Long Island for 6 months.
Which brings up Rich's thing. Those 16 teams will probably be 16 playoff teams, reduce the likelihood of being traded. I agree with that too. Well, geez, I don't want to get traded anywhere. I just want to stay here. I'm comfortable here. Remember when he signed the first contract extension? Well, he's building a house here. That means he's going to get a contract extension. They got it. The whole organization has everything ass backwards. Nick Canetta says, you guys have so much PTSD from Lee that you guys are jumping right to worst case scenario. Let's give Darche more than 6 days on the job. We have a show to do today.
I'm not blaming Darche. Grumpy is much more upset with Darche. We can all agree, right? Darche should have said, I'm the president of Hockey Ops. I'm the GM. What I say goes. He didn't do that. He took the offer that was offered by Lou and said, Kyle Palmieri's agent said, hey, we were given this offer. We really want to sign this. Can we sign this? Think about it. His first week. How much you think they were badgering the shit out of him to have that contract signed? They were hammering him on this. Hey, can we get this signed? Can we get this signed now? Hey, we want to get this signed. We want to stay here with the Islanders. Can we make this happen? Why? Why such the urgency? Well, because he knew nobody in their right mind would offer something like that again. Not to stay on Long Island, but again, he shouldn't have honored the contract that was given to Kyle before he was there. Shouldn't have done that. That's the only thing I'm upset with Darche on. And again, I just think it's a bad first move. That's all it is. Bad first move. I'm not freaking out.
Shop yourself around.
Sure.
And come back to us. Tell us your best deal. Because I guarantee you, no team in the league is offering 34-year-old Kyle Palmieri coming off a 28-point season, which is what he would have had if Brock Nelson wasn't there. A 28-point season is giving him 2 years with a no-trade contract. It's just not happening.
With all due respect, he had 48 points last year. Okay?
He had 7 points in his last 20 games when Brock Nelson was gone. Brock Nelson's the reason why he had those points.
He was playing
not Kyle Palmieri.
He was playing 18 minutes a night as well. That's like first line minutes. Okay.
Ever since he was traded here, I hated him. Nothing has changed.
Drew Grumpy.
Shit, the Islanders' best beat writers are also learning how to do their jobs for once. The Islanders can now market themselves as a normal team. It's tough. It's tough. I don't know how you market this to a fan base. We're just bringing back the same old group that wasn't good enough for the last 4 years.
Listen, look at how many people even agree with us on a lot of things that are fighting back on this because it's like, oh no, things are in okay shape right now. We just put a different name in and now things are okay. But like, there's no way we should be happy with ownership allowing Lou to extend his son and his buddy Steve Pellegrini to multi-year extensions before he was canned. There's a problem. If you don't think that's a problem, seriously think about it. That should be problematic. Freedom Fund Adventure. TJ
lives with 2 women, probably more if you count the cats. It is more. And I guarantee that TJ is the biggest drama queen in that house. How you doing, son? He is not the biggest drama queen in the house.
Not a drama queen at all.
Baby Liza is the biggest drama queen.
Sure.
She boys, she got that act down already.
Alrighty. Next comment we got there, X.
Tom says, on point, TJ. This is a GM who's handcuffed to the headboard by every limb. Yeah.
It's what it seems like right now. And that's what I mean. Like, I feel like it's an unfair, like, I wish Darche had a little bit of a little set to him and say, now, this is how I'm doing things. I'm the president of Hockey Ops. I'm the GM. It's my way, or I'm not going to be here.
It's the only way he got the job. He wanted the job more than he wanted self-respect.
Oof. Next.
Ooh, that's a good one. He wanted the job more than he wanted self-respect. Nick Canetta says, you guys want to change, and now you're complaining about everything 6 days into the change. There has been no change. It feels very clickbaity to me. I know you guys aren't trying to do that, but that's how it's coming off. Well, what has changed? Has there been any actual change to what the Islanders have done? So far, there has been zero change. They got Darche in there. That's the only change. Everything else that's up, everything else that circles Islander Kingdom has not changed. Nothing.
Would you be happy? Would you be happy if Lou Lamoriello signed back Kyle Palmieri? That's what happened. They signed back the same old Kyle Palmieri that we said at the deadline and the year prior is not part of our team to win a Stanley Cup. He shouldn't be on this team going forward. We signed it back. Lou was going to do the same thing. Lou offered the contract, so Lou did want to do the same thing. He intended to doing the same thing. And he signed back his son and Steve Pellegrini. That's an issue with ownership. That should be a worry. It should. You go, Meatball Farm. I like this one. Look at the little image right there. You go.
it just that ownership has no idea what they're doing and just let these guys run the roughshod? That can't be. They can't be this clueless, right? I wouldn't think that Collins would be that clueless.
I really don't know.
I just think that
The issue's Malkin. The issue's Malkin. The issue's Malkin.
They tied their ship to Lou Lamoriello, and he ran into the ground just like he did in Jersey. What happened when he went to Toronto? A year and a half, and they said, kick him upstairs.
See you later.
Yep, you're going upstairs. You sit in that little box up there. You're not to touch the team. They paid him out, but you're not to touch the team. That's what happened there. I'm telling you, that's what happened there. I know that for a fact. That happened there. And he ruined this franchise just like he ruined the Devils. Ask Devils fans how they feel about Lou Lamoriello.
He won 3 cups with him. 3, right?
And they still look at him like he was horrible for the team.
Yeah, they hate him.
He ran him into the ground.
And guess what? Lou doing shit like this before he was kicked out, giving his Nepo son, extra additional long-term contracts. Same thing with his buddy Steve and contracts. Hey, I need you to rubber stamp this one. Let's see what else has to be done. That Lou's already pre-done with his handshake deals. Anywho.
If they draft James Higgins, all bets are off. That's all I'm saying. JP says, guys, Friedman during an intermission on Hockey Night in Canada said that Lou was reporting to the Islanders facilities until June 30th because he got nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
Mr. Jamspan says Shanahan wanted to hire his own GM, not Darche. He wanted to hire the Toronto assistant GM. He looked at it and said, nope. Hold on. I got to do what? Believe me, the Marlies are run right for an AHL franchise. They're run the right way. And he just said, no, you got to keep Fredo. Nope. I'm not. He wasn't even interested in that. If a real GM of hockey ops guy says, I'm hiring my own GM, that's what a real hockey ops guy does. I'm hiring my own people. That's what he said. You're not offering me that? I'm not even interviewing with your team. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
And they wanted Shanahan. And he said no.
Robert Marshall Grump.
Poor year, 37 games, 37 points as a freshman. It's not.
That is a poor year. And here's the thing. Like, I'll bring up Celebrini, right? Like, that was the guy. He was the first overall pick. When you look at Celebrini's, right? He was drafted in 2024. He played just like I just want to make sure it's up on screen. He played just like James Higgins did. The year before he was drafted, he played in college. Well, Celebrini in 38 games had 64 points and was a plus 24. That's 32 goals, almost a goal a game, 64 points in 38 games. That's what you expect if you're the number 1 overall guy. Here's the thing. All in all, 37 points in 37 games is not bad, right? But to be the number 1 overall guy, 37 points in 37 games as a forward is not a good performance. It's relative.
The problem that scouts are having with James Higgins is that he did not handle the physical nature of college hockey. It was too much for him. He got bullied off the puck all the time.
It's going to be more physical in the NHL. That now is like, oh, he got bullied, and we're noticing that his point production was a lot less than what we anticipated it to be.
And I don't think he's going to be a center at the end of the day. I think he's going to be a wing. And you can't have a tiny winger. You got to have. You can get away with that as a center. But
I'm not saying he's going to bust out, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's why he's dropping. They didn't like his compete level, particularly against tough opponents. He shrunk from the occasion. I saw him in the semifinals, or was it the championship game? And came away thoroughly unimpressed by him. And he scored a goal that game. But I didn't like his interaction with his teammates after they scored. I didn't like he was goal hanging when everybody else is playing in defense. He's up at the red line looking for a pass when they're a man down. I'm just like, no. Hard no. Rick Romer says Craig Button always has the wackiest mock drafts. Most drafts have Hagen at 5. Okay, even if he's at 5, you don't draft him at 1.
First overall pick.
No one has him at 1.
That would be an awful decision.
Michael T says, I agree taking the Hopog kid first overall would be a very bad situation. Hopog is very close to where I used to live. Very close.
Papa.
I agree. Papa on 2 says the franchise continues to disgust and disappoint. I'm 100% with you on that. I wanted somebody who would not be afraid to. If you're going to bring in a change agent, you can't just rubber stamp what the old guard does. That's not change. Nick and I says, yeah, Grump, no one gets fired except the entire Bridgeport coaching staff and the NHL team assistant head coaches and it's been a handful of days. They were all gone before. You don't think Darche fired those guys, right? As long as you know that's not what happened.
I'd say probably the likelihood of that's probably pretty low.
Zero. It's zero.
Just looking at what he's done with saying, I don't know if the guys I'm going to have direct interactions with as the assistant GMs and the head coach, I don't know. I'm not necessarily have my mind made up on those guys yet. Really? Those are the guys you feel like you'd have your opinion on most early, not like the peripheries of like Bridgeport head coach.
And
the
whole Bridgeport staff was dead man walking after last year.
Worst statistical season in the history of the AHL.
They made Brett Thompson look like Toe Blake as a coach, or Scotty Bowman, or Al Arbor. Drew says, I'm just confused why both of you expected such a radical change from a GM who was on the first week of his job. LOL.
No, what I was expecting was that we would see something different. We would see something different from the cul-de-sac mentality that's been just woven into this franchise since Lou's been here and even before Lou. And the first move that we make is just further weaving into the cul-de-sac crew mentality. I really thought this was going to be a change, and it doesn't look like it is. One weekend. That's why I keep saying it's one weekend. I
wanted someone who said, here's our change of direction. Nothing they've done has shown a change of direction. Not one thing. When you're keeping all the higher ups, doesn't matter what you have underneath. And when you don't even have input on keeping those guys, it's even worse. He had no input on the contract signings. He had no input on keeping the assistant general managers. He had no input on firing Bridgeport or the assistant coach. He had no input. He just, okay, whatever. He has to do something positive for me to back him up. So far, I wanted change. I haven't seen any change from what we saw 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago. Same organization. John A says, Lou leaving parting gifts equivalent to Derek Jeter's fruit baskets. The difference is he's the one on the way out the door. Even better. I like
this. Little Derek Jeter baskets.
Drew says, Lou sunk this franchise into the abyss. Only way Darche can rebuild is collecting assets via trade. Going to have to trade guys to get draft picks. But here's the thing. When you have Fredo in charge of Bridgeport, how much development is going to be? I don't think you're going to have much development there. They haven't developed anyone. Not one player has developed in Bridgeport since he has been named general manager there. Not one. Matthew Carbone says, Fredo can still be fired. I believe he will be or have no power like Gar Snow. Well,
he won't be fired, as Matthew Carbone we mentioned earlier. And Matt C said this earlier. They're not going to do that when we're cutting $300,000 the entire radio team to save a few $100,000. They're not going to go ahead and fire Chris Lamorello after just inking a huge deal that they're going to have to pay him out of when he's not there.
How many years you think? How old is Chris? He's 50. You think he gave him a 15-year extension to get him to Social Security age? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. I it's a problem though. If ownership group knowingly signed off, and I think that's probably the case, knowingly signed off on Lou giving his son an extension when they knew they were going to fire Lou. Just bad optics.
Brad Crawford says, if the Islanders didn't sign Palmieri, then who would they replace him with? Free agents don't come here. There's nobody in Bridgeport. I don't know if our high-end prospects are ready or not. Okay. Well, guess what? You're in a rebuild anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. How about giving one of the young guys a chance? I mean, Palmieri did nothing after Nelson gone. Absolutely nothing after he left. He was invisible. It tells me he needs a creator on that line, somebody who could. He doesn't create for himself. And he's older. Why sign old guys to a bad rebuilding team?
He didn't cut us a hometown discount. That's for certain. He took almost the same exact deal he had as he's older on the downside. We gave him almost the same exact deal. He didn't even cut us a hometown discount. Think about that. He didn't even cut us a fucking hometown discount. Sorry,
300,000. It was 4.7 for
4.75 million.
4.7, not 4.75.
Sorry, 4.7.
Matthew Sklarov says, fair point, guys, regarding Palmieri and whether the GM being hampered down by ownership in the future. Definitely noted. Here's the way I look at it is this way. Signing him to 2 years means that, guess what? You have less money to invest in free agents. Next year is a loaded free agent class. Not everybody is going to make it to free agency, but if you still have Palmieri on your roster, there's $4.7 million that you cannot invest. That's the biggest issue. Again, it's the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Nick Connecticut says, Grump, I know loser organizations yet pick the Maple Leafs to win the cup. Who's the only team that played Florida tough? That's all I want to say. Who's the only team that played Florida tough?
Edmonton's going to beat them.
We'll see.
Edmonton's got this one of the
bad. Let me tell you something. Brad Marchand makes them so much better of a team. I tell you what, I've been so impressed by him this playoff.
Hall of Fame guy, first ballot Hall of Famer at this point.
He's a third line. He's a third liner. You think? Would you rather have as a third liner, Brad Marchand or Kyle Palmieri? I could do a choice. He knows what to do. And I hate Marchand, but you know what? You got to admit he's really good. At age 36, he's still doing the job. Well, how much is he making? What's he going to make? What's he going to get on his next deal?
I don't know.
He's only making $6 million now. Nick Canetta says, Grump, I hate to disagree with you so much. Say it's okay, because I almost always agree with you with what you say. It's okay. I don't mind disagreement at all. Eventually, You'll see. At the end of the day, as usual, I'll be proven right, but that's okay. I'm not going to throw it up in your face like DJ does.
Oh, next comment.
Barry Richmond says, Kyle Palmieri was brought back because they have absolutely no depth in the organization to fill out the roster. Whose fault is that? That doesn't mean you throw good money after bad, right? Guess what? You could pick up somebody off the scrap heap. You can say, you know what, Pierre Engvall, you showed us a little something. Maybe we'll put you on the second line because guess what? You showed that you were at least trying to initiate. Or Holmstrom, you're definitely going to be on the second line next year. There's guys in the organization. You know what they call it? Opportunity. It gives somebody a chance to step up and say, I want to be an NHL player. That's what it gives you.
You don't sign back bottom line guys like Mark Gacom. Oh, and it was the Hudson Fasching the year before. And it was, you could
Kyle
always
McLean.
You could find bottom line guys. You find
Matt Martin, Kyle Clutterbuck. They're all eminently replaceable.
Bottom six guys you could find off the heap and guys who are hungry down there in Bridgeport, ideally, and they could slide right in and they're like, wow, this guy's great. I didn't even know we had him in our system. That's what you want from the bottom six.
You still have Anthony Duclair, right? You could slide him up there to play wing.
What happens with Anthony Duclair, you think?
Or you could sign some low-end unrestricted free agent on a prove-it deal. That you could absolutely do that. Why a 2-year deal for Kyle Palmieri? He's totally diminished returns. What's the over on him getting 40 points next year? I'm betting the under. I'm going to DraftKings today and betting the under on 40 points for him.
Gosh,
D. Morrow says, seems like Malkin is the problem.
I think so too.
Freedom Fund Venture goes, look, I want to be the optimal draft position 2026. It is critical to future success. Palmieri and Bo help that. I don't expect mass turnover this summer. I expect it as the season progresses. Okay, so how does Palmieri help you if you think he's a good player? He doesn't help you in that regard to having a better draft position in 2026. You should be looking to offload as many players as you can, guys who make money. Move a defenseman who makes $5 million per for the next 5 or 6 years. Move one of those guys. Move a Scott Mayfield who's a bottom pairing defenseman. I mean, there's a lot of guys on this team you could try to move to free up more cap space for 2026 when there's a big free agent class. Maybe we take a run at Connor McDavid. Who knows? But you know what? You got to do something. You can't just do status quo. There has to be addition by subtraction on this team. Next comment, please.
Barry Richmond.
I'm not a fan of signing Palmieri. It's evident that this is a Band-Aid move. It's dumb. It's just dumb. It's a Lamoriello move is what it is. Dumb. Old, bold, and dumb to young, bold, and dumb. It's the same guy, just years younger.
Well, I will say that's a little ridiculous. I'm going to give Darche. Here's the thing. I don't think it's a great first week by him. I'm going to give him some time, though.
Lou Lamoriello was a better GM at 45 than Mathieu Darche is ever going to be.
Maybe.
Period. At 45, Lou Lamoriello was a better GM than Mathieu Darche is ever going to be. Period. Period. End of sentence. End of story. Book that. He's 83. That's why he sucks. is because he's almost dead. That's why he sucks as a GM. The game's passed him by. Mathieu Darche is no Lou Lamoriello in his prime. No. Freedom Fund Venture goes, one of the Lightning's top execs left the Bolts just prior to Darce's press conference. He's probably headed to the Islanders. I hope so. Who knows? Drew reviews. And like I said, we have a show to do this week. Okay? It's a this week show. Next week, things could change. But as this week, he's got an F. Drew says, if anything, it just sounds like Malkin isn't the sharpest tool in the shed when it comes to managing his money. Well, that's not true.
I don't think that's the case.
That is absolutely not true.
Guys like that aren't bad in that regard. I just
you
don't know.
You don't get to be a billionaire by not knowing how to manage.
His daddy owned the Empire State Building. That helped.
Okay. You don't get to maintain being a billionaire without
True.
knowing what the hell you're doing.
True. I do agree with that. True.
Mr. Jamspan says, Wild likes Boquist. No biggie there. There's your replacement for Palmieri. How about Boquist? He looks way better as a forward than he does as a damn defenseman. And here's the thing. As a forward, he's probably better defensively than most forwards because he allegedly played defense before. Maybe they don't know if Duclair wants to be back, so they signed Palmieri for reasonable. No. But he wanted him back. Lamoriello wanted everybody back. Mark Rodway says, I am through with Malkin. Steve Cohen, please buy the team. If Steve Cohen owned the team, I guarantee you there'd be change. There'd be real change. He wouldn't have let Lamoriello do. He's like, get out the door, old man. Sorry.
Yep. Absolutely here. Okay, go. Tony Cheese.
Get this French-Canadian cuck out of here.
I figured.
The hoser. Freedom Fun Adventure goes, and we all know Grumpy was the biggest diva and drama queen in his house.
Yeah.
Actually, we didn't have any drama. We didn't have any drama queens in this house.
Oh, you definitely did. Freedom Fun Adventure. Your house growing up, you had drama queens growing up in your house.
No, I'm talking about.
He said
our
in your
house.
No, he said in your house was growing up.
I'm talking about our house.
Yeah.
Freedom Fun Adventure goes, Fire Chris was written on the ice in Bridgeport. Darche doesn't have a spine. TJ, try ordering some Blu-ray DVDs tonight, buddy.
Okay. I don't understand. He doesn't have a spine. Oh, he's not a lion. He's a mouse.
Fire Chris Lamoriello, spray painted on the ice, and what do? They re-sign him to an extension.
And
screw you, Bridgeport fans. We don't care what you think. Tony Cheese go, Darche is getting cucked, and we're getting effed.
I like that one. Freedom Fun Adventure. I'm sorry. This is Frank.
Frank from Empire State goes, it's unbelievable how people lose their freaking minds 8 days in. Wow. We are the problem. The negativeness makes this team worse. Google it. Negative thoughts make negative shit happen. Frank, do you remember all that shit that you were coming at me for, how I was wrong on? But what happened? I was proven right.
Yeah.
Like I said, I can see that. Like I said, reading this organization is like reading a freaking coloring book.
I will say I give the guys more leeway and length than Grumpy does, and I still will. Grumpy doesn't. Grumpy's a very, hey, you make an immediate mistake, I'm unhappy with you. I will say this, Darche, not a good first week, but I think he's got room to grow, and I want to see him be a lion. I don't want to see him be pushed around, and he has to stay obligated to things that Lou talked about. That just doesn't speak much to if you're a lion or not. You're not a lion in the room. You're not a lion when it comes to business. You're a mouse. I'm not a fan.
Look at the good teams in sports. They don't do this. They don't do these things. It doesn't happen like this. The teams that are winners don't do stupid things like these. That's what losing teams do. Loser organizations do dumb things like this. Those are just facts. Just look it up. And here's the thing. If you think I'm tough, look at European soccer. You lose 2 games in a row, you're fired. Man, you're on the hot seat. You lose a couple of games, you're on trouble.
Yeah, they expect results.
Freedom Fund Adventure goes, you both admitted Darche was the best guy for the job. It's not what I said. Islanders are strong down the middle. Horvat, Barzell, Ritchie, Danny Nelson, Bednarik. Okay. The only 2 guys who've actually played in the league are Bo Horvat and Matt Barzell. And Matt Barzell's a winger now.
Matt Barzell's a winger. Exactly right.
And Ritchie, maybe. Ritchie's going to be your number 3 center this year. JG Pajot's going to be your number 2 center this year.
I originally said Darche was the guy I wanted. And again, as I mentioned, it was like the honeymoon stage. The backup quarterback, everybody loves him until he starts throwing interceptions.
I said the only way I wanted Darche is if they had an experienced hockey ops guy. He never should have got both jobs.
I think we know why he did get both jobs, though.
Nobody else wanted the job.
Nobody else wanted this job because ownership obviously is playing around too much and they're just incompetent. Freedom
It's
Fund
like Neil, it's like Neil Smith all over again. And older Island fans know it's like Neil Smith all over again. He's
Okay,
like 40 days. That was enough.
We talked about this last episode. We've heard from trusted sources that they were asking the Darche camp and other GMs, other potential candidates about having a dual general manager approach to this job. 2 GMs. They'd asked about this.
That's when Bergevin said, nope.
He said, get me the fuck out of here. No shot.
And even Darche said no. But Darche was willing to, he acquiesced on every other issue. That's why he got the job.
Let's not overthink this one, guys.
And everybody else dropped out. Everyone else dropped out. Freedom Fund Venture goes, none of these moves were Darche, except letting go of all those crappy devils from coaching staffs. Okay, so if you're going to give him credit for firing the coaching staff, you have to give him credit for signing all these other moves too. You can't just pick and choose which ones you say he was involved in and wasn't. Right. He was either involved with all of them or with none of them.
I think he's involved. The only thing I think he rubber stamped was the Kyle Palmieri. That's about it. I think, again, like the Palmieri deal was offered before he was there. I think all this was done before he was here, but he's starting to sign off on things, which is just crazy.
And he's also stunned that the old piece of shit, Lamoriello, didn't have a skating coach, a skills coach. We knew the front office was tiny, but Lou, come on.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Freedom Fund Venture goes, Fredo has no pride or self-respect. I agree with that. Can you imagine sucking at your job, then joyfully accepting a contract from daddy that you know the owners, new GM fans don't want you to have, fire Chris? Hey, he knows he's not stupid. He knows he's been riding daddy's coattails since day one. Ever since he got that first job delivering papers for the Providence Journal.
His daddy knew his contract was up at the end of this season. It didn't look like an extension was going to be offered his way. So he said, let me go ahead and give my little son a big fat contract extension, multi-year.
He's never gotten a job his whole life that his daddy didn't give him. Not one job his entire life since he was delivering papers when he was 11 years old did he ever get on his own. It was always daddy getting him the job. Dan Perez says, a bunch of negative Nancys. That's true. That's fair.
I'm not negative towards Darche yet. I think it was a bad first week. Grumpy's more negative on that. Ownership is the issue. I've got a big issue with ownership, and we should start questioning ownership. I've been questioning him for a while. Not a good look on ownership.
I'm just big picturing the whole thing. This guy didn't have the balls to stand up to anything. That's all I know. Adam P. says, I was optimistic, but now I'm hesitant about the whole thing. I knew the comments that Lou would have no say was BS. Darche may report to Malcolm, but Malcolm listens to the old F. You can't keep a former manager in the rank and file. It never works. Absolutely. You fire somebody, you're gone. But now they're reporting as of July 1st, he will be gone. Well, the damage is already done. He's already crippled the franchise. How many years do you think he set the franchise back? At least 3 or 4? It depends on how long the contract extension for Fredo is. Because you can't send anyone to Bridgeport and expect them to develop. Not anyone. Who's going to be making who's going to be making the coaching hires for Bridgeport? Is it going to be Fredo, who's in charge of that, the GM of that organization?
We kept Brent Thompson in charge forever, and then he brought in some new shit show.
Let's see who gets brought into Bridgeport. That's your big. Okay, who's in charge? Who's really in charge? If you see Fredo hiring somebody who used to be for the Devils or somebody he knows, you know it's not Darche. If Fredo brings somebody in. If it's somebody from Tampa, then it's like, okay, maybe he has some say.
To sell at the deadline, Freedom Fund Venture says here, Lou said he would, but was relying to extend it everybody and to not do any trades. Malcolm got pissed because Lou agreed to the plan and didn't think that he had to do what he agreed to. Yeah, yeah. Jeff D.
Don't get why they gave Palmieri a no trade clause. Probably because he just asked for one. And he said, okay. Gives everybody no trade clauses, even 35-year-olds. Yeah. Cut Shy Revenge says, so Simon Holmstrom basically developed on his own. No, he developed when he came up to the big team with Patrick Waugh.
I think Patrick Waugh did a really good job. But again, we're critical of Patrick Waugh at times, but I think he did a really good job of developing Simon Holmstrom.
He turned him and Engvall around.
Yep.
He turned both of them around. They were both allergic to the boards, would not engage physically, and all of a sudden he benched them. He rode them hard in practice. He turned them into hockey players. That's Patrick Waugh all the way. Eve Legan says, I would love to acquire Nemec from the Devils. I wonder about the cost. He's like a young Wisniewski.
I don't know what the cost of him would be. Simon Nemec's already been traded away, wasn't he? He was traded away to.
No. He's still with them. But do you think that the Devils want to give up a guy who was number 2 in the draft, or number 4, wherever he was picked? I don't think they want to give up on him yet.
Number 2. Yeah, he's 21.
They're not giving up on him yet.
I'd say probably not.
If you could get him for a 3rd round pick, I'd go do that.
They're not going to give that little. You go.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying you have to get him as a depressed asset.
Freedom Fund Adventure says here how hysterical it would be if the Islanders tried to have a night to honor Lou. Booze and garbage will rain down on the ice.
What would you honor him for doing? Never won anything. What,
Tony
for showing up every night?
Tony Cheese.
Do you think they kept Fredo to soften the blow of the firing? No.
Johnny Mac.
Ron McManaman says, good evening, gentlemen. I'm really irritated knowing Lou is still involved indirectly. Now the Islanders retool is 5 years longer. Keeping Fredo is despicable. I 100% agree.
Agreed. Freedom Fund Adventure.
I don't think you can expect anyone to develop in the minors as long as he's GM. Freedom Fund Adventure goes, TJ and Grumpy has reported Lou had full autonomy over a team and front office. That equals not needing ownership approval. Yeah, when they see those checks come, this is an expenditure. He has a budget. He has a budget he has to maintain.
Yes. Okay. Anytime like you're going to do that, he absolutely has to get those type of approval items through the team and through the ownership group every single time. Hey, I'm going to give my son Chris Lamoriello an $8 million a year contract. No, we're not approving that.
Or 15-year extension.
They're not approving that. So like absolutely those type of items go through where they're just like, hey, I think they're meticulously looking through and they're criticizing everything he does? No, it's the reason why they allowed him to sign those guys back even after canning them.
Adam P says Lou and Fredo use Joe's auto pen. Yeah, that's probably correct.
Frank Grumpy says, hit the thumbs up, guys. Absolutely. Thanks for the reminder, Frank. Matthew DiBernardo.
The Lubonic plague, the gift that keeps on giving. Hopefully new staff under Darche is announced after the 30th when the old fart's off the book. Horrendous look for ownership. Hashtag Property Brothers. It's a bad look for the organization. Absolutely.
It's not a good look. Johnny Mac.
He says, I had a reporter friend in Toronto call me yesterday telling me Lou is still an advisor. Then says GMs and NHL personnel are laughing at the Islanders for keeping Lou as an advisor. Absolutely.
Still showing up advising until the end of his shift a month from now.
It's why no one wanted the job. Because they're vacillating on what they want. They don't know what they want.
Atlas Shrug
says the last 20 games, the Isles have had about 7 points collectively as a team. They were terrible. Kyle Palmieri, F-.
Are we getting Isaac Howard or not? No idea.
He can go wherever he wants if he doesn't get traded, right?
Yeah. I mean, still, even if he gets traded, he doesn't sign a contract. He could still go wherever he wants. Cut shot revenge.
Okay. Well, just to say that Darche should know more than anyone, right? If
yes,
he's interested in him or not. Yep. Cushite Revenge says, okay, the Islanders keeping Lou as an advisor doesn't mean Darche has to act on Lou's recommendations. Really?
The problem is, I don't think Lou, again, as Stefan stated quite clearly, he's at the end of that contract. When his contract comes up, they're not bringing him in. He's not in the building involved at all. But again, you just still don't.
Why would they even let him in the building now?
I don't know.
You're fired.
They should strip his access to all of his key cards, to be quite frank.
We don't want you here. We don't want you here. You're fired.
You're going to be working remote. You can work remote for the last month of your job. No, thanks so much for your service.
We're revoking everything you have. We're revoking it. Just sit at home and enjoy your paychecks for the last few weeks.
James Walsh.
If Lou had contracts for Dobson and Romanoff, is he allowed to say no? Or do you think they have to go along with it? I don't think they're on contract.
They had something like that. Again, he loved his boy Kyle Palmieri. I remember the old Devils, Kyle Palmieri, his old buddies. They had that ironed out well ahead of time.
Yep.
Freedom Fund Adventure.
Grumpy, you guys named her Liza. She was always going to be a drama queen. Well,
true.
I didn't name her Liza. No, I had nothing to do with that. I see it this way. Okay, Palms is resigned for 2 years. Now someone like Jay Pajot or defenseman like Mayfield Pellick need to get traded off. Okay. I believe when you're right. That absolutely has to happen. Until he actually makes a move, I have to say he hasn't done anything.
Thomas Bach.
Gentlemen, I'm looking forward to our Quebecois Mafia. Give it time. He's had 8 days.
I'm still giving Darche time. I'm not being as critical as Grumpy on that, but not a good first
Okay.
week.
How long did it take for Poland to fall to Nazi Germany? 40 days?
All right, next comment.
They took over a country in 40 days, and I can't rip this guy for failing a job in 8. Michael T says, just out of pure curiosity, does anyone know if Patrick Waugh and Brendan Shanahan are acquainted? Are they friends or what? I have no idea. I'm sure they know one another. Certain
They played hockey around the same time, and they had the fights between Colorado and the Devils, the Red Wings. So I assume that was kind of like a joke. Yeah, they're acquainted a little bit.
Mark Wadray says, would be an absolute travesty if Higgins is drafted over Schaefer. That cannot happen. It can't.
Agreed. Tony Cheese.
And they're not. Here's the thing: they're not trading the first overall pick. That's not happening. Yeah. Tony Cheese says, Michael, there was a rumor they were seen at a homosexual strip club back in February. I don't think that's been verified though.
Tony Cheese, I need to see your sources.
Me says, is he going to bring a star player to the Islanders? Not this year. He's not.
No. Especially not when we're giving away $5 million like candy and cap space.
Mr. Jamsman says the French Connection wants to pick Denoyer first overall. Well, yeah, no.
Tony Cheese.
I can't believe Grump just promoted Engvall to second line. That's nuts. Well, I'll tell you what. Pierre Engvall at the end of the year played much better, much better because he was not afraid to do things he'd never done before. And I'll tell you what, and he slipped a couple times during the season. He got benched a few times and he came back hungrier. That's what I want. That's what the Islanders are going to need from those guys. And if you show you can bring that every night, you can absolutely play higher up the lineup.
KCO Smuggles Pigeon says here, I'd love Palmieri back on the Devils. The Islander fans are so miserable. Palmieri for 2 years is not the end of the world. You guys should be far more concerned about Engvall and Mayfield on the books. Yeah, we're already concerned about those.
We've discussed those numerous times. And here's the thing. Of course, Palmieri for 2 years isn't the end of the world. He's not on your team. Brian Jennings says, Islanders fans who truly love the team need to quit showing up for games, period. Don't watch or on TV. Don't stream. Don't buy merchandise. Hurt the owners where it counts in the pocketbook. And that is the most important thing. You hurt them in the pocketbook. That's what hurts them the most. Matthew S. says, I don't think Palmieri's AAV is more of an issue in the future years than perhaps the Engvall, Mayfield, and Pelech deals that are longer term. 100% agree. You're going to have to really work hard to move some of those guys. If any of them starts playing well to start next year, you need to move them immediately. If it's November, December, don't wait till the deadline. Get the contracts off the books. Free up money for the future. Next year is a big draft year and a big UFA year. Not everybody who's a UFA as of right now after next year is going to be there at the end. A lot of them going to be re-signed by their teams, but there's many more guys who have the potential to be next year than had the potential to be at this time last year. Michael T says, does Anders Lee have a no trade clause? I believe he has a no for 16 teams, no trade clause. They should have moved him already. He didn't play. He'll never play as well as he played the first half last year. Okay. When he was playing on the third line, he looked great. Frank from Empire State goes, I love the Palmieri deal. We can trade him for a second or a first rounder. If he scores enough, he'll be traded at the deadline. Really? No one's trading a first round pick for him. And no one's trading. He has a no trade clause next year. So it's not, you can't even trade him this year unless he says he wants to. And after next year, things will be better in his age 36 season. It's not happening. The time to trade him was this deadline. No other time. His value only goes down from here, not up. Michael T goes, does Anders Lee have a list of teams he would go to or an absolute no trade clause? I think he has a 16-team no trade. Atlas Shrug says, Lee, Pelech, Pajot, Palmieri all should have been gone. They had trade value. Lou was too busy trying to extend Nelson for $7 million a year. What a joke. 100% agree. Adam P says Darche reports to Malkin. Malkin listens to Lou. Therefore, Darche is handicapped by Lou. You can't keep on the old boss after a demotion. It doesn't work. It undermines the new boss. He's not even with the organization anymore. New York in denial, says Brian James. That the new team name. That's actually probably better than the New York Ice Jets. But that's how we're run right now. Michael T says, I just checked, and it's surprising that the team has been over 500 in the standings for the last 5 years. But we're right at 500. There's nothing special about this team. We're a middle of the pack team, stuck in the suck zone. Brian Jennings adds, Palmieri for team fluffer, prep for the circle jerk meetings. Yeah, that's probably right. Now they're going to let him grow his beard back. Maybe that'll make him a better player. Mark Rodriguez goes, I'm fine with the Palmieri deal, if not for the damn no trade clause. Well, that's part of the deal. So you have to if you're happy with the deal, then you have to be fine with that no trade clause. Without that, we could have traded him for a draft pick at the deadline. The no trade clause is a killer, ruins the contract. Yeah, it was a bad contract. I would have traded him at last year's deadline. You could have got a second and a prospect. Then you could take your second, pair it with something else to move up in the draft, pair it to move up in next year's draft. There's a lot of things you could do. The more kicks at the can you have, the more flexibility you have moving up and down in the draft. And next year's a big draft year. Mr. Jamspan says, get rid of 2 of Pellick, Mayfield, Pulak, re-sign D'Angelo, and call up George. I don't think they're getting rid of anyone. I think they're going to have to get rid of one defenseman. And I was hoping it would be Romanov, but when he says he's part of the core of the team, it tells me he doesn't know much about hockey. David DeGesu says, what comes to thought is that Mathieu Darche is not a veteran as a GM, vice president. He's not a Mark Bergevin and others with more experience. They declined to be here, a.k.a. Brendan Shanahan, that the ownership wanted first. Let's see what Darche can do. If it's a bare minimum and the same old, he's not running the show at all. That was my whole thing. If you brought him as GM, you had to have an experienced veteran director of hockey ops. You could not give him that job. You could not do it. And that's what they did because he's the only one who would take the job. Freedom Fund Adventure goes. I already read that one. Freedom Fund Adventure goes. I can absolutely pick and choose what I give Darche credit and blame for. He did get rid of those coaches. The Islander owners explained how bad Lou salted the earth, and they wanted to honor. I blame the owners. No, I blame Darche.
I blame owner more than anything else. But Darche should have had a little bit
It's an organizational failure. That's what it is. Michael T goes, I was optimistic. They're the Jets. I was optimistic because we got a brand new arena that is top notch in all sports. Then we get the first overall pick. Then we got a new coach. Grumpy has rained on the parade. LOL. Okay, but tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you're happy with the moves they made. Winning organizations and franchises don't do things like this. This is what dysfunctional losing organizations do. Just any sport. If this was another team, if this was the Rangers doing this, what would everyone say? If we're going to bring Chris Kreider back, give him an extension. We're going to bring all these older guys back. You'd be ripping all over them. But because of the Islanders, people want to believe there's nothing wrong with it. Mark Rodway says, can't Darche say no if Lamoriello tries to bring in someone to Bridgeport that Darche doesn't like? I don't know if he's capable of doing that. I would hope so. You know what? He should be. I'm the guy who's hiring it. You just go over there and make sure that all the receipts are cashed at the end of the game. Make sure all the numbers balance out. James Costa says Holmstrom is the man. What a player. Grump was wrong, like many things. Okay. If he had never played for Patrick Waugh, I would have been right. I'm happy to be wrong on him.
Really quickly. I'm not sure we could say he's the man yet. I think he's a very serviceable middle six guy.
Yep.
Fine with that.
Yep.
45 points in whatever, an 82-game season.
He's
okay.
A
solid middle six guy.
Yeah.
Rockaway
Could have got him in the second round, though. Rockaway Lifestyle says, I don't understand the Palmieri no trade clause. Does he not want to win a cup? He doesn't care. He just wants to
live on Long Island.
He wants to be comfortable. He wants to be comfortable with his family. Nothing wrong with that. I just don't want that on my hockey team. Big guy on the fan says, it's just flipping ridiculous. I don't like people looking over my shoulder. If I write the GM, I would install an eject button and get Lou and Fredo out of there. I agree. That's a good job. My little brownie says, wasn't the hope that after Lou, Waugh moves upstairs and they hire a new coach? That was my hope. Should that still happen? It's not happening. That ship is sailed.
Tony Cheese says, nah, I like the New York Browns Ice Jets better.
The Brown Ice Jets better. Yeah, I like that. Good way to end the show.
Let's go ahead. Wrap up the show. Grumpy, what do you want to say before you end the show today?
I want to say love and laughter to everyone who listens and even those who don't. From TJ and the Grumpy Old Man and Son X. Hey, we'll see you next Saturday.
Thanks so much, guys, for tuning. We're going to have a show during the week as well. Weekday show. So be prepared. We're gonna have a weekday show this next week, but you gotta be prepared. I'm not sure what day it is. We're working and scheduling. I gotta go ahead and we're gonna have some guests. Gonna have some guests on the show here. But make sure you guys tune in. Make sure that's why you gotta be subscribed on YouTube. Bing notification bell on. So when we go live, you're not surprised and hit the like button. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching the video today. Thank you so much for the comments. Thank you so much, Grumpy. Thank you so much, Sunex. What do you want to say, Grumpy, before we end the show today? Anything else?
No,
Okay.
nothing else.
You threw your hands up. I wasn't sure.
No,
Anyway.
I'm just talking about the New York Brown Ice Jets.
Thanks so much, guys, for watching. Thanks so much again, Grumpy. We'll see you guys next time.